Well, I tell you, I'm an author and a speaker, and I do a lot of research. A lot. I write primarily historical romances. And so it's a blessing and a headache to get to do this kind of research. But every now and then, I will find a gem that is just so beautiful that it blows me completely away and really makes me rethink things. So each Christmas, what I like to do is dig into a new part of the Nativity story and really explore something I hadn't thought of or pondered very much before. And I write blogs on it and speak about it. Well, I hadn't found anything last year, and I was searching through, and I thought, well, God will bring it to me if he wants me to know something. So I began digging through research for something else, and I found what I think God was wanting me to know. And I found this. I was giddy when I discovered this. It is a letter written by a man named Jonathan to the high priest of the Bethlehem synagogue. This was years after Jesus had been crucified and risen, and they were still trying to make sense of what had happened, because his testimony was changing the world, turning people upside down. So apparently this man named Jonathan went to go find the original shepherds who were reported in the Gospels to have seen this miraculous thing. And this is what he wrote to the priest of the synagogue at Bethlehem. It says, "From Jonathan to the masters of Israel, servants of the true God. In obedience to your order, I met with two men who said they had been shepherds and were watching their flocks near Bethlehem on the night that Jesus the Christ was born. They told me that while attending their sheep, the night was super cold and chilly, and some of them had made fires to warm themselves. Some had even lain down and were asleep. They were taking turns on watch. They were quickly awakened by those who were awake, keeping watch, and they heard them asking the questions, 'What does this mean? Look how bright it is.' And that when they were fully aroused, it was as light as day outside. And they knew it couldn't be daylight because it was only the third watch of the night. All at once," this is what the shepherds reported, "all at once the air seemed to be filled with human voices saying, 'Glory, glory, glory to the Most High God. And happy are you, Bethlehem, for God has fulfilled his promise to the fathers. For in your chambers is born the King that will rule in righteousness.' Their shoutings would rise up into the heavens and then would sink down in mellow strains and roll along, it sounded like, at the foot of the hills, and then die away into the most soft musical manner they had ever heard. Then it would begin again high up in the heavens to the vaults of the sky and descend in these sweet, melodious, whispery strains, so that they could not refrain from shouting and crying at the same time. The shepherds reported the light would seem to burst from high above the heaven and then descend in soft rays and light up the hills and valleys in segments, making everything more visible than the light of the midday sun. And it really wasn't brilliant, but clear, like the brightest moon. I, Jonathan, asked them how they felt, if they were afraid, and they said at first they were terrified, but after a while it seemed the music calmed their spirits, and so filled their hearts with love and peace that they felt more like giving thanks than anything else. They said this phenomenon was around the whole city, and some of the people were almost scared to death. Some said the world was on fire, some said the gods were coming down to destroy them, and others said a star had fallen." So can you imagine seeing that as the shepherd? This was found in the archives of Constantinople, and I just got chill bumps when I read it. So the wonder they had, the overwhelming ecstasy that these poor shepherds could still, this was probably 40 to 50 years after they had seen that, they could still recall in vivid detail what had happened that night. And as you heard from the report, they weren't just really speaking, they weren't just really singing, but it was some otherworldly blend of the two. I've heard preachers argue about the angels weren't singing. No, they were speaking. I'm like, does it matter? God knows exactly what he was doing and what he sent his angels to do. It was a celebration night. So I've been thinking a lot about the darkness in our world, how heavy things are, but things were dark and heavy in Bethlehem at that time too. They were under Roman rule. They were probably very scared living day to day, but then God sent Jesus down. So he is the peace amid the chaos. And I hope this speaks to you like it did to me.